1. During my final year in college, I was living in a 2-bedroom on-campus apartment with 4 other girls. My actual roommate, Christine, is a sweetheart, and we're still like sisters even now, after over 10 years of friendship. That was our 3rd year rooming together, and we even signed up for the same summer abroad programs. We like to joke we've used up all our roommate luck by finding each other, because all our sweet apartment mates were interesting. My first year roommate pair, they had everything in common despite meeting for the first time, to the point where it was just weird. They even both had anemia and OCD. The lights had to be off and the curtains had to be drawn all day and night, and the TV would always be on. Anytime one of my friends would drop me off, they'd just stare at the intruder without saying a word until he left. Second year sweet mates, their boyfriends were over at their rooms all the time, so it became a situation where it was actually 6 people sharing one freaking bathroom. Yeah, they were annoyingly dirty too, to the point where the tiles on our side of the bathroom became a different shade from the tiles on their side of the bathroom. But that's not so weird. The weird part was that one or both of them would always slap on a handful of hair on the wall of the shower, every single day. It was a large pile and looked like it was placed deliberately. Christine and I still have no idea what the hell was up with that. Was it an offering to the shower fairies or something? In our 3rd year, the other 2 girls sharing our apartment were Chelsea and Brittany. Chelsea was normal, but Brittany was problematic. She would always bring different guys home every night, which was fine, except for the fact that she was in a relationship with a cop who carried a gun everywhere with him and had serious anger and jealousy issues. Oh, and she'd have sex all over every surface of the apartment. The night this incident happened, there was a St. Patrick's Day party with free concerts happening in the school. So, there were loads of people on campus. Brittany and Chelsea have gone off to a party, but Christine and I decided to stay at home to binge on Friends reruns because we were so cool? Lame. In the middle of our Friends binge session, we heard someone hammering at our door. "Hey, can you let me in? I need to borrow your phone." It was a male voice. We immediately assumed it was one of Brittany's guys. Sometimes they would make up stories just to get into our apartment, then refuse to leave until she comes back, so they can hook up, get into shouting matches, usually cheating related. "What should we do?" Christine whispered to me. I knew what she wanted, but she was too nice to say it, so I said it for her. "Let's pretend we're not in and not answer." We were in no mood to entertain a guy for a few hours while we waited for Brittany to get back. The guy banged on our door and asked to borrow our phones several times, but eventually gave up and left. We had fun watching the rest of the episode when our phones buzzed. We both checked our phones, and it was an automatically generated campus-wide alert text. There was a stabbing on campus. It was in our very apartment, and happened in the unit right above ours. The stabber was an unidentified male, and he was still on the loose. I looked at Christy and asked her, could it be? She looked unsure, but went, "Nah, it couldn't." "Yeah, it couldn't." We made sure we barricaded the door to our room before we slept, though, in case Brittany brought Mr. Stabby home. I mean, she doesn't, yes, present tense, have the best taste in men. The next day, we read the school paper to find out more about the incident. Apparently, the guy knocked on the victim's door asking to borrow her phone. She let him in, and as soon as he was inside her apartment, he grabbed a knife from the kitchen countertop and stabbed her multiple times in the stomach. He was a complete stranger, and it seems that his only motivation is to stab someone. Since the campus was filled with thousands of people during the party, the guy easily slipped into the crowd and disappeared. Our apartment was on the ground floor and right next to the stairs. If someone was to go knocking on every apartment, Our apartment was most likely right before the victim's apartment. Christine and I definitely spent a few minutes shouting, holy shit, oh my god, holy shit! Turned out having a shitty apartment mate may have helped save us. If you were a fellow Lion during that time, you'd remember that it was a month after there was a shooting over a high school basketball game hosted on campus. Fortunately for me, I was graduating in 2 months, so my mom couldn't pull me out of LA and make me move back to Indonesia ASAP. Yes, my mom received the alert too, knew our apartment's layout, and so she pieced everything together and realized it could have been me or Christine. 2. I live in a farming area, and there's a lot of fields and woodland, so it's not a hard place to find somewhere to walk my dogs off their leads. About 2 years ago, one evening, I had completely forgot to walk them. It was about 8:30, and it was October, half-term, so it was already dark, but I wasn't too bothered, because I know the whole area really well. So I took my large female boxer dog, who was only a puppy at the time, but had insane muscle, and was already fully grown in height, and my Chihuahua cross Jack Russell out. I'm a 5'5" girl with quite a bit of muscle on me, as I did a lot of physical sports, including martial arts, so I could easily protect myself in a fight. Because of this, I thought I didn't need a torch, and I thought I was safe. I began walking out my estate and up a hill with my earphones, playing some heavy metal music to get me in the zone for a quick walk on the back fields and then back home. When I reached the top of the hill, which led to another housing estate bordering the fields, I noticed there was no traffic at all, no movement. At this point it was almost 9, and there was nobody to be seen, which I thought was unusual because it's a well-populated area. Besides this, I carried on walking, with little crossbreed biting at the lead with excitement, and my boxer trying to attack my shadow. Once we reached the fields, it was almost pitch black. There were no lampposts. The only light was from the houses that faced the field. I took my boxer off her lead, and as boxers do, she bounded off into the tall grass, like a child, whereas my little mutt followed my heels, nipping my jeans to remind me he was still there. After 5 or so minutes, my eyes had adjusted to the lighting of the field, and I could see my boxer had stopped a meter ahead of me, staring at something. Instantly, my Jack Russell Cross starts growling and stands in between my legs. I look up to see a figure standing around 3 meters away from me. I shout my boxer to come back to me. As usually, she gets too friendly with strangers and jumps up them. Reluctantly, she turns to me and begins running to me, my eyes never leaving the figure. I call out and apologize for my dogs. I think I said something like, "Sorry, she's only a pup. She thinks everybody wants to play." Nothing, just silence from the figure. I could see that they had long hair and what looked like a long raincoat on. The shoulders were wide, however, I still think it was a woman. Once again I called out to her, "Are you okay? Did she jump up you?" Again, nothing. At this point I could feel her eyes on me and my dogs. My littlest dog began barking and squealing, and my boxer began barking this horrifying bark I've never heard her produce. It sounded like she was trying to threaten the figure. Then I heard the woman begin laughing malevolently. That's when I lost it. I picked up my little dog and ran, knowing full well my boxer would follow me. Like I said earlier, I do a lot of sports, so I'm fast, and don't have too bad stamina. Jumping over the gate with my dog in my arms and my boxer right behind me, I glance over my shoulder and see the woman clear as day in full pursuit. I couldn't give you exact details. All I can tell you is she looked like something straight out of a horror movie. She was grotesque in every sense of the word. At this point, my boxer was running just a little ahead of me. She knew I was running home and that this woman was bad news. She could have bolted, but whatever reason, she kept a speed that matched mine. Maybe it's the dog's loyal instinct of the pack or something, I dunno. Anyways, by the time I had reached the end of the first estate, I slowed to look behind me. Big mistake. There she still was running, quite a distance behind me, but she was coming. At this point my head was complete mush, but I knew if I went down the route I came to the field from, she would catch up to me. So I darted to the left, at the end of the estate, and ran across the road down the street. My boxer right by my side, and at this point my mutt had gone silent, and was digging his paws into my arm and chest. I ran like I've never ran before. At the end of the street I turned right, which brought me onto a street next to the opening of my estate. I didn't look behind me until I reached my driveway. I put my mutt down and he ran with my boxer to the front door of my house. I looked behind me. She wasn't there, but I could hear her laughing. So I ran to the door, opened it, and slammed it behind me, then bolted it. I turned the porch light off and peered out the little window of the door. She walked straight past the end of my driveway. She hadn't seen me. I told my older sister what happened. She told me it was best we didn't tell our dad, as he probably wouldn't let me walk them alone again. Ever since that night, I rarely forget to walk my dogs before it gets dark out. And when I do, I walk them first thing in the morning after. So, scary lady in the farmer's field, let's not meet again. 3. I'll cut the introductions down to a minimum. I'm 18, have issues with residual paranoid schizophrenia. Never used Reddit before. Heard about this subreddit thanks to YouTube. I've been doing very good recently. I have been asymptomatic for almost 2 years, and that's the longest I've gone without a major relapse since my diagnosis. I still question my perception of reality from time to time, but I'm usually able to dispel the shit I hear as settling of my home or just my high anxiety and tendency to be paranoid in general. I get spooked easily. I'm a little less concerned with monsters in the dark trying to steal information from my organs and blood, and a little more concerned with the very real possibility of home intruders. So, instead of the creaks and bumps being attributed to them, my mind immediately goes to, who the fuck's in my house? The schizophrenia has made me kind of tough, I guess. I'm a live-or-die trying type of person when it comes to self-defense. I'm a female of about 5'3" and 105 pounds. And I would take on a dude that stood 7'3" and 405 pounds if my life depended on it. And I would do so without the slightest hesitation. I mean, I was convinced an alien race was trying to kill me for nefarious purposes. And I swore to myself if they ever got to me, we'd all be dead if it came down to it. Now, this seems like rambling. It's not. The too long didn't read of the first few paragraphs is, I am a tiny little berserker, and I will at least try to fuck anybody up should they give me an adequate reason, and I'm on edge enough of the time that I can never be caught by surprise. About 2 weeks ago, I had a friend that I pretty much grew up with, we'll call him D, came back to town to visit his parents for a month. He moved to a real big city about 4 hours away from here. 1 year ago. I missed him a lot, and I tried to hang out with him several times. And 2 weeks ago, I was on Google Hangouts with D and a friend I will refer to as P. D had offered me a cold one if I ever came over to his house with a better computer for Hangouts. He has a netbook, about the size of a copy of Atlas Shrugged. I'm not big on booze, but I like to have a good time with friends, and alcohol enhances my mood for a few hours, so I jumped on the offer. That was around 12:30 a.m. My mother, stepfather, and little sister were all asleep. I left at about 3:30 in the morning. My keychain contains keys for my car, the little fob, and the spare backdoor key. I don't really like the concept of spare keys lying around in the yard or hidden, so I offered to take my parents' spare off their hands as soon as I started working full-time, second shift. So it's about 3:45 AM. I pull into my driveway. I see lights on in the living room, coming from the TV. Shit. Stepdad had an acid reflux attack late at night, and went downstairs as not to disturb my mom, and to sit upright in a chair. I tried several times to open the door to no avail. He was sound asleep. But I didn't want him to know I'd been out late and then suspect I was drinking irresponsibly over at someone's house. So essentially, I didn't want him to know I was doing nearly exactly what I was doing because I don't qualify my drinking as irresponsible. I go around the front of the house, hoping my mother left it unlocked. It wasn't. I was running out of options and I started with my bedroom windows. I was evicted from my second-floor bedroom when my sister was born 2 years ago. Went right over to the window unit AC and was about to break the damn thing to get back in my house, but I noticed it was covered in spiders. I cringed so hard I pulled a muscle in my face and moved on to the other window into my bedroom. I mean, it's almost entirely blocked by a dresser, but if you think I'm above breaking my furniture to sleep comfortably, you're wrong. The screen didn't budge. I moved on, running out of options and preparing to rehearse some bullshit story to use when I called my parents at now 4 AM. I got to a window and was just past our kitchen window, parallel to the wall with my window unit in it. To give you a little concept of the amount of space in that area of my home, my bedroom is about the same size as the room past the kitchen, and they are split by the staircase to the second floor. This will matter later on. However, I could make it in 5 good steps, from the window I was at to my bedroom door, from the inside. I try to lift up the screen for this window, and I am met with success. I am once again pleasantly surprised to find that this window is unlocked. I move both to a reasonable gap and slide inside carefully, trying to mind my stepfather snoozing in the living room. I shut the window, unlock the front door, go around and move the screen back down so my parents don't suspect any issue. Against my better judgment, I left the window unlocked just in case I have to use it again. I've broken into my own house on 3 separate occasions, not including the time I've just told you about. Today I was babysitting my sister from 6:30 PM to about 9:30 PM. It starts to get dark around town at about 8:30 PM. So the world was in the process of going into power saver mode as I took her up to her bedroom to go to sleep. We read some stories, and by the time she was entirely settled, it was about 9:15 PM. 15 minutes before my stepdad was supposed to be getting home from shooting and with just enough light outside to be able to make things out. As I descended the stairs today, just barely 2 fucking hours ago, I heard a broken up, squeaky sort of noise. It sounded familiar, but I couldn't place it. And when I reached the bottom of my staircase, I turned to my right, the opposite direction of my bedroom, and saw a shadow of a person beginning to lift up the screen to the window that I had previously broken into. And that's why I knew the sound. He was trying to finagle the screen the same way I had. And just because I'm willing to kill a man doesn't mean I want to. So my heart sank into my chest to a depth I had never experienced before. And he didn't notice me at first. As soon as I ran out my front door, I assumed he had realized he was caught, because he was halfway down the street by the time my barefooted self had made screaming and hollering and threatening him. He just kept running down the alley. I don't want to call the cops. I don't want to tell my parents what happened. I didn't get a good look at him, and I feel it would just be brushed off anyway. A schizophrenic seeing things, how unusual, right? I don't know if I was seeing things or if there really was a guy trying to break into my house while I was alone with my 2-year-old sister. I hope this will be an isolated incident, All of the windows on the first floor of my house are officially locked. Like I said, I really hope this is an isolated incident. But he obviously didn't get what he wanted first time around. So you sane criminal scum, let's not meet, for your sake. Update 8/18/16. The screen on my window was raised. So, again, tonight is Thursday night. Stepdad was just out shooting. I had to babysit my sister. The screen was not open at all during the day. Period. End of story. It fucking wasn't. So this either occurred when I was giving her a bath, or this motherfucker saw me leave my home with my sister and decided to try and get in again. He probably gave up when he realized the window was locked, and there was no chance of him getting in because I lock the doors when I leave. Either way, I discovered this having returned from taking my sister on a stroll in her buggy after bath time. I am absolutely shaken. Update 9/6/16. Yesterday I came home after shopping. Mom was at work. Stepdad, with baby sister this time, was at a Labour Party thing. I set all of my bags down and sat down in the kitchen and started browsing my phone for any important messages. My boyfriend had typed a tirade about his day, and in the middle of reading this, I heard my stairs creak. Not a, oh, this 30 to 40-year-old house is settling creak, but a, someone is using my stairs creak. My mom has distinctive footfalls using the stairs. So does my stepdad. The footfalls did not belong to either of them, and to make matters worse, neither of them were there to begin with. I lost my shit. I wasn't even a yard away from the staircase. If it was someone that had broken into my home, they likely knew I was there anyway. Plastic bags are loud as hell. I messaged my boyfriend. I came home to an empty house, and my stairs are creaking. Not normal creaks, someone is here. Verbatim. He told me to leave immediately. I was almost paralyzed in fear. I tried peeling my arm quietly off a plastic bag, full of fruit I had my arm propped on. I rummaged through my kitchen drawers for something sharp. Anything, really. I got a can of Raid too, just in case I could poison the motherfucker. I snuck over the side of the staircase. I said, "Hello?" Pause. "Mom?" Pause. "Stepdad's name?" Pause. No response. I will give you to the count of 3 to decide whether or not you want to leave and never come back, or never leave. We've got an arsenal in this house, and don't think for a second I don't know what I'm doing. No response. No sound at all. I peeked into the staircase and saw nothing. I saw no one. And I gave the person I was sure was in my house a generous count to 3. You've made your choice. The doors are locked, and you can't get out in time. See you soon. Talking a big game for someone that's sweating so hard my clinical strength deodorant has given up. You know. I walked out into the living room where my dogs were. Now, they weren't behaving strangely, so I began to think this may have all been in my head. One big grand trick of the mind. I thought I'd better be safe than sorry, though. I went through the gun safe looking for a pistol with a laser pointer sight thing on it. My stepdad had showed me his purchase and said, "When the zombie apocalypse comes, I'll let you use this one. You can hit anything so long as you use the laser." Right as I was rummaging for this thing, I hear my front door open and slam shut, and I mean fucking slam. Somebody was actually hightailing it out of my house. My body was entirely numb. Aside from pin-pricky feelings in my legs, my heart was moving at 1,000,000 miles a minute, and despite climate control, I was sweating like mad. I didn't want to run and check to see if someone was bolting down the street. I couldn't even believe what was going on was real. It's one thing to chase someone trying to get in, and another to chase someone that may have just been inside and fled, or is still inside. I gave up on laser sights and precision and opted for the AR-15 that he had showed me and explained the functions of after the Orlando shooting. I had asked how they work, what they are, and what they do that gives them their stigma, etc. I loaded the damn thing and prepared it in the ways I thought would make it function. Whether or not it actually fired was of really no concern. It made me feel a whole hell of a lot safer than a knife and insect killer. I baited my American bulldog into going past the barrier of the living room into the rest of the house. Pretty much uncharted territory. He immediately picked up an unfamiliar smell and bolted up the stairs. I want to note that this dog is lazier than a kid with a D average and an IQ of 189. He doesn't move unless he has to eat or shit. He's furniture you have to feed, in essence. If he's running after something, it is new and interesting to him. He went into my parents' room and lost it. Or found the main source or something, I don't know. This entirely confirmed my suspicions. I called my stepdad, then I notified the police. After making some important phone calls, I did a full and thorough sweep of my house, and locked all the doors and sat in the living room with no TV, no phone, no noise. The police came into town, and I told them all I've told Reddit. I even showed them my video, which can be found by clicking through to the original post. They looked into things. No sign of forced entry, no fingerprints, no anomalies, no valuables were stolen or damaged or moved. So, no basis for a real investigation. I was told to call if anything else strange happened. I hope this will end here, but if it doesn't, you sane criminal scum, it is in your best interest to never meet me. Once again, not for my sake. Hey everyone, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to 3 True Scary Stories, episode 146. Right, before anything else, I just want to say thank you very much to everyone who allowed me to use their stories, and let you know how much I appreciate your kindness. Right, I'm going to try something now. What I've been doing is I've been looking through the Reddit archive, since that's pretty much the main place I get most of my stories from. So I'm going way back. So far I'm looking at stuff from about 2 years ago, and I'll see how far I need to go back. And I'm looking for stories from then. The reason I'm doing that is because it's an attempt to combat people suffering from what I guess you could call story fatigue. Because while it does frustrate me to hear it, I want you to know I am sympathetic and I do understand it can be a little annoying if multiple narrators have done the same stories, especially close together. So I'm now going to try going further back into the archive to find stories that won't have been done recently, find stories that may not have been done. Or if you've heard them before, it's been so long since they were covered that it shouldn't really matter much. That's my hope. We'll see if it works out that way. Let's cross all our fingers and toes for positive results, and let's cross our fingers and toes for responses to my messages, because the only real problem in going back into stories that have been posted 2 or 3 years ago or whatever is a lot of people kind of hit and run. They'll post their story and then they won't be back. So I'm checking to see how recently active people have been, in addition to finding the stories that I want. So we'll see how it works out. Okay, I think I'm going to head off for now, so until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.